I'm here today to just finished with some code here, and what I'm trying to do is with the circuit playground, I'm trying to detect gesture motion with that. So specifically, I'm trying to detect if I have it in my hand and I'm rotating it, kind of doing that circular gesture in order to do a trigger. I do have it working, so you can see as I start to rotate this, the lights, I have it upside down. So as I start to rotate this in the correct orientation, you can see that the lights should start turning on. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now they're starting to get brighter. You have to do it in just the right order. So anyways, these will get brighter and brighter the more you rotate it. You have to get the gesture just right in order for them to increase in brightness. And I'll kind of show you how I did that. So in the coding, what I did was, first of all, I went and took a look at some of the data that came off of the sensor. Essentially, I just let the serial monitor run while I was rotating this around with the gesture that I wanted to get triggered, and was looking at the X and Y data that was coming off of that. This is just a sampling of a lot of that data. And then what I did was went ahead and looked for common kind of triggers. So there's a couple of different ways you can do this type of thing. One of the ways you can do it is with is actually coming up with different pieces of hold on, there we go. You can come up with different algorithms that actually will really track very closely what the gesture is that you're doing. One of the methods that I found that I thought I'd work with is this method where you're picking certain settings or certain settings that you're looking for your sensor, from your sensor, in a specific type of order. And if you're able to detect specific settings, then you go on to the next set of settings. And if you find that, then you're increasing the probability that you're going to be detecting one shape over another, and you just keep doing that. It looked like a lot of people used anywhere from 4 to 5 different point samples in order to do that. So what I'm looking for is, as I'm rotating this chip, I'm looking to see where those extra points are, or where those key identifying points are that I'm looking for in the accelerometer data. So I took the sample of this accelerometer data and let me switch over to that screen. Let's see. Sorry, my program's giving me a bit of trouble. All right, so I went over to check out my data sampling, and with the data samples, I went through and tried to identify these 4 points of interest here and look at what the numbers are. And as you can see, I've kind of marked them out so that you can see which one is the first one we're looking for, the second, and then the third, and highlighted those so I could look to see if I could find a pattern in that. And then based on that, I was able to go over here to my code, and in my Arduino code, what I'm doing is I'm basically setting a couple of different kind of I'm using a switch statement. And what that switch statement is looking for is the different stages of my gesture. So I have this variable declared gesture stage, and I'm looking for 4 different stages of my gesture. The first one is going to be looking for accelerometer data that is going to be around 0 and -2. Now, the biggest thing that I noticed in looking at the numbers is they're kind of skewed slightly, because you're never going to be able to draw a perfect circle in the air. There's always going to be a slight deviation. So in order to account for that, I have this variable offset right here. And what that does is it brings it down. So when I feed in, I have this Boolean function that tests to see if I'm within the parameters that I'm looking for. And I feed that the sensor reading that, like the middle of the row sensor reading that I'm looking for the X axis for the accelerometer, and then the middle setting that I'm looking for the Y axis on the accelerometer. And then it goes through and basically calculates out what the high end of that is and what the low end is on the x-axis, and same for the y-axis, and then does this comparison to see not only is it this number, but is it within like a certain range of that number. Like, I don't need it to be exact, I need it to be within a certain threshold. And that's what this does. And then if it is within that threshold, it returns a 1, so the statement is true. If not, it returns a 0, so the statement is false. So that handles all of the figuring out, am I close enough to where I want to be in order for this to register as a positive. So I look for stage 0, which is our starting point. Stage 0 is going to be looking for a reading from X that is going to be plus or minus 4 from 0. And on the Y, it's going to be looking for plus or minus 4 on -2. And then if that is close enough to there, we're going to switch to our next gesture stage. Plus, we're going to increase B by 1. B is what's controlling the blue LEDs. And basically that just increases the brightness of the blue LEDs by a factor of 1. Then we have our next switch case, which is our gesture stage 2. So if we are at gesture stage 2, or if we're at gesture stage 1, we are going to be looking for the second point, the second set of data points. That will be an X value of plus or minus 4 from -10 and plus or minus 4 on 10 on the Y. Then that's going to go over to gesture stage 2, increase the LEDs one more time, and continue on basically like that through 4 different cases. And then when we get to the third, we just loop back around to the first case, and we just continue doing that. So what we're doing is we're looking for 4 very distinct data points in our sensor data in a particular order. There are ways that we can clean this up, but the basic functionality is working right now, and that's kind of how I'm doing the gesture. So let me reset this again, and let me switch cameras, so hopefully this will work. And let's see, it's hard to actually get this to work with the camera because I can't really see. There we go. So now, as you can see, if I rotate in this direction, the LEDs are going to get brighter and brighter, and then eventually they'll dim again because I don't have a cap on the LED cycles. It just kind of loops back around. So it might be kind of hard to tell, but that's essentially what's happening is I'm getting brighter and brighter as I rotate this around. And actually, yeah, I need to go in this direction, I think. Or is it this direction? Let's see. I've been basically doing this all night trying to figure it out. I do have a certain threshold, so maybe I'm just not doing big enough movements. There we go. I think I wasn't doing big enough movement. Yeah. So now you can see it's getting noticeably brighter and brighter as I'm rotating this around. And then it went back. So you can, I mean, that's kind of the next step is for me trying to figure out how to adjust the type of circle that you're doing. But you can see that's getting brighter and brighter, and then eventually it's going to go out. And there we go. So that's it. That's my gesture. It needs a little bit of work, but this is the basic functionality. I think this is a cool thing. I'd like to be able to figure out how to do a more detailed tutorial and maybe a library on being able to draw different shapes. And then, of course, once this can detect different shapes that are being drawn in the air, then you can assign that to different triggers. So that if you draw kind of a box, it would trigger something else. The rotating is going to be for something else that hopefully I'll have ready for Halloween. But that's it for now. All right. See you guys later.